This is Captain Black, RLSH, real life superhero for folks feeling like zeros. Tonight's topic, my overnight shelter for the homeless. Recently, I did 96 wonderful hours running an overnight shelter for the homeless when General Winter, my unloving nickname for freezing weather, invaded New Orleans for roughly 8 days. This has been a long-term plan of mine, and I have to thank Sally Ann Glassman, president of the board of directors of the New Orleans Healing Center, and Beverly Wallace, building manager, for being very receptive to the concept when I first broached it. Additionally, my food force, and those are the wonderful people who responded to updates I would place on Nextdoor Marigny. The healing center is located in New Orleans, Marigny area. And my food force were neighbors, bringing hot out of the ovens, hot out of the stores, food on a nightly basis to feed our homeless guests. I'm not a big fan of government nor uncaring nonprofits. Disinterested, uninterested bureaucrats and executives are at the bottom of my list. The flip side of creating safety is sharing supply. Homelessness is a problem in New Orleans that has reached epidemic proportions, just like in the rest of America and, dare I say, the West. We understand that in addressing this issue, it boils down to two things. People need shelter and they need food. I'd always had the idea in mind to team up with benevolent buildings, as I call them, to provide temporary, and of course this could be a long-term proposition under the right conditions, but definitely temporary protection from inclement weather. It's bad enough not knowing where your next meal is coming from. It's nightmarish to consider having to sleep inside vacant houses, abandoned public buildings, or even under bridges. These are the locales that many of my guests stayed in. So if that is rough living, as our British cousins call it, imagine how rough the living becomes when the temperature goes below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So with benevolent building and with myself marketing to the population involved that there was a place where they could come from 11 p.m. until sunrise, roughly before 6 in the morning. They could sleep in warmth, unmolested. I monitored the guest. I made sure no one bothered them. And I'm happy to report that they did not bother each other. It's an amazing thing when people are just simply trying to rest. And for many, peaceful rest, not having to literally sleep with one eye open, can do far more than all the corny speeches and all the mounds of paperwork that government and corporate nonprofits would have them fill out. So the overnight shelter was a smashing success. Not because I'm some great guy, but because a benevolent building and an equally benevolent community rallied around my call to provide temporary, warm, safe, and supplied overnight shelter. I would encourage everybody, whether you're a real life superhero member, a random acts of kindness practitioner, or a regular person with a heart of gold, consider starting your own overnight shelter. Or if you're in the New Orleans area, or if you're not, get in touch with me and I'll share with you how I did it. We can't wait for the politicians and the corporate boards to come to the rescue. If we look at our street corners, if we check out our parks, if we audit public spaces that allow the homeless to congregate, we see just how much the politicians and the corporate boards have done. My overnight shelter for the homeless was successful only because people cared and that care was exercised in an organized fashion. I have the concept, I have the supervision, but the community had my back. And as always, folks, I tell you, find your super, which is your unique potential, and helping others.